Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Paula Ferris Show. I'm your host, Paula. My husband, John, is joining me for this episode as we continue and put a cherry on top of our series on relationships and dating. John, we are going to talk about how to keep it spicy in your relationship. This was the number one most requested topic within this series. So no pressure, but we're going to have to help people navigate the spiciness of their relationship.
It's funny that the topic of this is keeping it spicy, and we are recording this March 2nd at 9:03 p.m. And I think you and I feel the least spicy that we have maybe all of 2025. So who knows where this podcast is going to go? Let's just give it a whirl.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that, we just got back from my mom's funeral. I mentioned to you guys my mom passed away on February 16th, so super raw right now. But what we are going to do is try to honor my mom through this conversation because, as John and I will mention throughout, she was a catalyst in keeping us together at a time when John and I were both about ready to walk away. So we want to honor her and what she meant to our relationship. I really don't think, John, that we would be together today had it not been for how my mom spoke life into me all those years ago, back in the early 2000s, when I wanted to just walk away from the relationship. So we want to honor her. Yeah. I'm wearing her shirt.
Her flannel shirt,
Yes.
which I do like very much. You would have no idea that shirt is 30 years old. I don't know.
It's old, but it smells.
Classic.
It smells like my mom. And yes, the only way I'm going to make it through this conversation is by compartmentalizing my life right now, because you've seen me the last couple of weeks, John. I'll have a good moment and then I'll have a bad moment. And someone sent me this really great quote about grief. And it says, "Grief is the last act of love that we have to give those we loved. Where there is deep grief, there was great love." And there was and continues to be great love from my mom, who is now laid to rest next to my dad. So again, going to compartmentalize, take some deep breaths. We're going to dedicate this to my mom, how to keep it spicy with your partner. My mom and dad were married over 50 years. So
they had a lot of fun together and
sure
created a lot of spice as well.
Yeah. So John, I think one of the catalysts too for this conversation, we did a connectivity challenge for the new year. All of January, we were planning on doing it all of February, but life kind of happened. So we did it for about 45 days. We're going to update people on that and whether or not it helped or hurt our relationship. But why did we decide to do this connectivity challenge? I mean, yes, it was a New Year's resolution. Why did we decide to do it?
Well, I think we need to be intentional about things that we want to really prioritize and make successful. And our marriage is something that we want to prioritize and make successful. And it's very easy as busy parents. We both have careers. We have three kids. They're going in a lot of different directions. And we can find, in our house, we use this term, we give each other the leftovers. Whatever we have left, that's what you get, Paul, and vice versa. And that's not good enough if you want to have a real successful marriage. So we've really tried to prioritize one another in 2025. And I feel like it's worked.
Yep, totally. So let's just set the table and set the scene for this conversation. Why is it important to connect and prioritize the relationship with your significant other, even over the kids? And John, there's a couple of reasons why, but this quote stood out to me. And it said, "The best way to raise emotionally strong kids is by loving your partner."
And in, keeping with the theme of honoring your mom, I actually have a letter that she sent back in 2011, and she kept a copy of it. I probably have a copy of this somewhere, but haven't thought about it.
She wrote this to you. I found like 3 letters from my mom to me and to you in her apartment when we were cleaning it out, John.
Yeah.
And this is one of them.
Yeah, and I'll just read a couple excerpts from it, but it was all just about encouraging myself and just to be a leader and really support our family. But we were in the process of moving to New York, and let me just read 2 little excerpts. "I think you and Paula complement one another very well. It's so evident that you are crazy about your children, and I love the way you care for Caroline and JJ and having fun with them." And then another thing is, "John, you have a huge responsibility as a spiritual leader in your home, and I know you'll be depending greatly on the Lord to follow his plan for your dear family. Remember to make your and Paula's relationship a top priority. That speaks wonders to your children."
Wow. Right there. And I don't think there's any coincidence that I found that letter right before we're supposed to record this conversation.
Yeah.
And it goes along with, I saw something from Aisha Curry. She is the wife of Steph Curry. They have 4 children. And she has said that she prioritizes her relationship with her husband over their 4 kids. And she said that works for us because then you have 2 happy people raising the kids in the house. And she said prioritizing each other involves making time for one another, such as going on dates. So the relationship should be the number one priority, even above the kids. Another quote that I saw, John, that I loved was this. It says, your marriage is your child's first model of love,
Wow.
conflict, and respect. Your
Mm.
son will repeat it. Your daughter will accept it. So raise your standard. We have a hard time prioritizing one another. Let's just be honest. We have busy lives. You actually asked me about this yesterday as we were preparing for the conversation. You said, do you think that you're prioritizing our relationship above the kids? And I said, no, I'm not. It doesn't mean that I don't think that I should. I, of course, think that that should be the priority. But when the rubber hits the road, in all reality, the way that I'm living that out, I'm prioritizing the kids and their needs above our needs as a couple. And I have to really think about what message that is sending the kids. And like Aisha Curry said, if you have 2 happy people raising the kids, that's going to speak volumes.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an example for your kids. Do you think you do a good job of this, John?
I try. I definitely try. But I do think we look at our kids, we have them for this finite time. And then you got me for the rest of eternity. And so you're trying to take advantage of being involved in our kids as much as possible. And we even talked about this in one of our other podcasts with Caroline getting ready to go off to college in about a year. So it's like we're trying to invest so much time and make so many memories with them, for them. And then when they'll be gone, I'll be like, all right, now it's you're in my turn. But that's not what good advice is saying. That's not what your mom is saying. That's not what Aisha Curry is saying. We need to invest now, or else there won't be a relationship to have when the kids are out of the house.
Don't you think we get a little gaslit by society to, oh, you only have 18 years, spend them wisely because they'll be gone? Or I saw something that said, by the time your kids are 18, you will have spent like 95% of the time that you'll ever spend with them. I'm like, that's just gaslighting, really. Don't you think, John?
Yeah, I do, but there's a lot of truth to it. And I do think we do need to make each other more of a priority. And I would encourage all of the people who are listening, take time, go do fun things with your spouse, really invest in them, ask them how their day is going. And I think sometimes we take each other for granted and we feel like we're investing in time with one another, but maybe we need to go do something a little bit more special or get outside of the house or go out, like you said, go on a date. We haven't probably been on a date in 30 days, probably.
I know.
It's been a little while.
I know. It's so bad. And John, speaking of dating, over half of married couples that were surveyed by a report from the National Marriage Project at UVA and the Wheatley Institute, over half of them reported that they never or rarely went out on dates. And by constituting going out on dates, that's at least once or twice a month. So over half of us don't go on dates, and that's not the only way you can connect. We'll talk about it in a little bit when we discuss our connectivity challenge and the unique and creative ways that we decided to connect with one another. But over half of American couples say that they never or rarely go out on dates. Only 48% reported regular date nights. Isn't that crazy? Like, we don't take the time anymore.
Why do you think that is? Do you think we don't want to, or we just don't have time? And getting back to the whole leftovers, I'm just exhausted. I don't even have time. I don't want to dress up. I don't want to go out. I don't want to have to plan. I've been planning meals for my kids.
Yeah, as a busy working mom, I'm super tired. The kids pretty much get everything on my plate, and you get the leftovers, sadly. I think we're so consumed with our kids. We're exhausted at the end of the night. It takes work, and we just don't have the mental, emotional, physical capacity for it. This quote from that survey, John, said, today, too many married parents are helicoptering their kids, which means they don't devote enough time to fostering intimacy in their own marriage. But the reason why we should invest in one another is that regularly dating your spouse is linked to a happier and more stable marriage, which is a great example for the kids. But over half of us aren't making time to even date our spouse. And that's not how it was when we were dating. Just think about like the butterflies we felt, and like I was getting gussied up. I wasn't throwing my hair in a ponytail and, not showering
You don't
before
get
the
the
date.
butterflies? I still get the butterflies. You don't
Oh,
get them anymore?
I'm sorry, honey.
But
Yes, I
getting
get
back,
the butterflies. I get the
think about it.
butterflies. For sure, I get the
If
butterflies.
we want Caroline, who's now been dating her first real boyfriend for the last 6 months, if we want to be a good example of what it looks like to respect and be in love and
Yeah.
invest in one another, how can we ask her to be modeling something that we're not modeling? Or
Yeah,
same
that's
thing with
true.
JJ or even Landon. Like, they are watching us. And I see this a lot of times. Kids, they grow up and they're like, I never want to be like my parents. They fought all the time. My dad worked or my mom worked and they never were around. They never invested in me. There's so many reasons why parents are doing the exact opposite of
Mm,
their
mhm.
childhood experience. So we have this opportunity as parents to try to give our kids something that they can model, that they
That's
can
good.
cherish, that they can say, hey, I want to love like my mom and dad loved each other. I want to laugh like my mom and dad laughed. I want to invest in time in things that they enjoy doing together, like my mom and dad. That would be an amazing thing to hear your kids say in 10 or 20 years.
Absolutely, that they modeled their relationship after your relationship. But again, if we want to raise emotionally strong kids, it all starts with loving your partner, your significant other, investing in them, connecting with them, prioritizing that relationship. So you asked me, why don't we take the time? And I gave you my take. And I think we're also helicoptering our kids a little too much. We just need to back the heck off and let them do their thing. Why do you think that we're not investing in relationships? And this isn't just a Paula and John thing. This is an epidemic. I mean, over half of married American couples don't date anymore. Like they can't recall the last time. I mean, it's been months since they've gone on a date.
Well, a
They don't
lot of
have
times
time.
they have separate interests. Like in your free time, if you have something to do, what you really are passionate about, it may not be the same thing that the other person wants. Like if I get free time, what am I doing, Paula?
You're golfing,
I'm
which by the
golfing.
way, I was so mad at you about 2 hours before I recorded this conversation because you had planned this golf
I didn't
outing.
plan. I
You
was
did,
asked to play
and you
in a
agreed to
match.
it.
Okay.
You agreed to it, but it's during our spring break.
I didn't look at the calendar.
You've agreed to do this without even looking at the calendar, and now you're trying to move our spring break trip because of a golf match. So, I mean, you guys can DM me. I'm in the right here, correct? Like, John, come on, John, right? Can you just say I'm sorry, please?
I'm sorry, please.
I'm kidding. No, but that's one thing. Like,
Yeah, having
I think our
similar hobbies and
communication.
like what do you want to do when you have downtime?
I want to chill. I want to relax. I want to sometimes just stare at a wall. I want to go shopping for the home. I don't like clothes shopping.
But see, just
I
as
like to decompress. I want to go grab a coffee with somebody.
yeah,
But my thing is I want you to have your outlets. You
yeah,
golf a lot, and I have my outlets. I want to get together with my friends. But I think it's a baseline of respect
yeah,
where, hey, John, I've got this thing planned. You're cool if I do that, or I'm going to be
yeah.
gone. It's just that base level of
Fair enough.
respect. Yeah, you're not the boss of my calendar. I'm not the boss of your calendar. You need to have your outlets, but it's a baseline of respect because if you do that, somebody's going to end up
Yeah.
picking up a physical
But
load and
what
vice
I was
versa.
getting at, we have to have similar interests and similar outlets that we like doing together. Because if couples don't have that, then they're just
Right.
going to be like, all right, what are we going to do? We're just going to stare at each other. We're going to go to
Right.
a dinner that we really don't want to go to and spend money we really don't have. So I think you do need to find common things that you like to do together with your spouse. And
And you
then,
may have to work at it.
yeah,
Maybe you don't have anything in common right now, but like let's
take up
figure out
pickleball.
something.
Like everybody's taking up pickleball these days.
Except me,
Or,
I still don't like it. Sorry.
yeah,
You're so mad about it too, aren't you?
no,
I mean, I will say John has tried to coordinate like a whole family pickleball outing and he picked it on like the windiest day and we could not control the ball. I think we ended up having a decent time, but
yeah.
so we talked about like the reality is over half of us aren't dating anymore. And when we're too busy helicoptering our children, let's talk about what we did for our connectivity challenge because we did feel convicted, like we couldn't remember the last time we'd been on a date. We had basically three components, three facets of this connectivity challenge. There was a spiritual challenge, there was a physical challenge, and then there was a mental/emotional challenge. So the spiritual challenge for 30 days, which of course extended to about 45 days until our lives kind of fell apart with my mom passing. The spiritual component was what, John? And for the first time in our relationship, we've been married almost 25 years.
Yeah, we were consistently praying together, and we were
Right.
doing it before we would go to bed at night, and just
Yeah.
kind of recentering and being thankful for everything that was accomplished that day and all
Right.
the blessings that we have. So that was the spiritual challenge.
I loved that component because we'd never done that. I
Mhm.
mean, we've been together since 1996, married since 2000. So it's kind of incomprehensible to believe that we've never consistently prayed together.
Yeah.
And I was a little convicted by it. So, but I did feel a different type of connection with you, just praying and reflecting about all the good that has happened and just giving things up to a higher power. You may not be Christian like John and I are, but that spiritual connection, that spiritual challenge, whether you're Jewish or Buddhist or whatever you might be, it was a component of our relationship that I think had been missing. And now
Yeah.
that we
It's
have
real.
now that we have a taste of that spiritual connection, I don't think we're going to let that go. And it doesn't cost anything. It's not a
Yeah.
date night. It's
Yeah.
literally laying in bed saying what we're thankful for, what's on our mind. And I may or may not have fallen asleep during some of your prayers. I love you, honey. Okay, so there was a spiritual component, and there was a physical component to our connectivity challenge, which I loved because that kind of took the place of a
You
date.
saying you
And
love getting physical with me?
yeah, let's get physical.
Let's get physical.
By physical, we worked out together.
Yeah.
And I know where you're going to go with that one too. Okay. Yes. Okay. Anyway, let's just move on. But we worked out together once a week. That was
At
like
least. Yeah, I
our
think
date.
it was multiple workouts
Yes.
every week. We were really good about this.
I think like couples that sweat together, that's just a nice, that's a different form of connection. But we took a warm yoga class, which we hadn't done that before.
Couple of them.
We took weighted vest walks. We worked out in the garage, and we have a YMCA membership. So we went to the Y. I find too that with guys, it's sometimes hard to get them to open up when you're face to face, when you're sitting across the table from one another at dinner. And I'm like, John, pour your heart out to me. It's not really how it works. But if we're taking a walk side by side, or we're actively engaged in something, I find that you can be vulnerable, but you don't feel threatened. And a lot of times guys feel threatened with the eye-to-eye contact. So I found that you opened up a lot more during those workouts, during the physical.
It might have been the Lululemon spandex that opened me up a little bit, but either way.
There you go. No, but that was great. And we tried some new things that we hadn't tried before, like warm yoga. So that kind of took the place of our date, right? So that was a date because we were intentional. We scheduled it. And that's the other thing. If you don't schedule it, if you're not intentional with this, you're not going to make the time for it. You have to be like John would send me invites on his calendar, and I had to accept those. Otherwise, I would forget about said date. Okay, so we had a spiritual component to our connectivity challenge, a physical component to our connectivity challenge, and then the last one, which I found to be, I think, the most connective, I felt the most drawn to you and bonded to you, was the mental/emotional aspect of the connectivity challenge. So every day we asked one another, how can I support you today?
I think it's just starting the day trying to put yourself and your own needs secondary, which is so counterculture. We wake up and we think about, I got to do this, and I got to accomplish this. And we're so focused on us that we forget about the people around us. But it almost shifted. I'm like, all right, how can I support you?
Yeah.
What do you need today? How can you feel loved? Just asking those questions. And sometimes it was like, I'm good. There's nothing. And there's other days, well, I need like these 5 or 6 things. And I just think we were able to level set and get on the same page from the start of the day, as opposed to waiting till the end of the day and say, how can I support you? What do you need?
And sometimes we would do this during our spiritual connection praying the night before. We'd say, okay, how can I support you tomorrow? And I'm just going to let everybody guess how you answered that question most days. I'm like, John, how can I support you today?
Yeah.
You're a guy.
I'm a guy. Fill in the blank.
You are a guy. So what I loved about that question, it felt to me like you were thinking of me and just the thoughtfulness, getting outside of yourself. But also within that daily question, we also did a weekly kind of board meeting. We sat down at the table. We looked at our calendars for the entire week and determined who's doing what when it comes to the kids and just what's going on around the house. We meal prepped. We went over the meals for the week and who's going to do the shopping and then who's going to prepare the meals. For me, for most women, and I don't want to speak for all women, but the mental load, the domestic load is probably the biggest stressor in our relationship. Most women will say that their husband stresses them out more than the kids do. For me, that is absolutely the truth. I'm sorry, honey. When people ask how many kids I have, sometimes I say 4. And you're in that, even though we only have 3. It can be so stressful. Our husbands can stress us out a lot more than the kids. But you taking a lot of that load, right, was so attractive for me. And I didn't realize, and what did you just say?
Ooh.
I didn't realize how much bitterness and resentment had built up because of all of the things around the house that I'm doing. And yes, I work from home and you work from home, but the majority of that stuff falls on me. And then I get burned out. I get bitter. I shouldn't have to carry all that. I'm sorry. We are both partnering and raising these kids together, and we should both be carrying the mental load together. And the fact that you started carrying a lot more and you continue to do so and continue to be a great partner and supportive partner and don't expect me to do it just because I'm the woman. And don't get me started on that because you know I'll rant for a long time. That was such a turn on. Such a turn on to me. And also a revelation as to how bitter and resentful I had become towards you because you weren't doing your fair share around the home. And I guarantee you, the women that are listening are probably saying, I feel the exact same way. It's very rare each partner is carrying their fair share. So kudos to you. And that's the part of this challenge that we continue to do. And I think for me, it's super sexy. I'll just say that.
Hey, you've said enough right there. You're speaking my language. So now all I have to do is to keep the resent low and then the attractiveness goes up. That's the equation there.
This is what I've been trying to tell you for so long. I'm like, honey, the way to my heart is in the kitchen, around the home. And sadly, a lot of this has been domesticated as the woman's work. I'm sorry, it ain't. Okay, not especially in homes where both partners are working. This should be shared labor. Shared labor. So it's hot. I mean, I might walk downstairs tomorrow and you're going to be in your boxers cooking breakfast for the kids. That's going to be a huge turn on right there.
I do cook breakfast most mornings.
A lot. I know, but not in your boxers. I'm saying that could take it to the next level.
Got it.
But I'm just saying guys expect us to be turned on and like, oh, how can I romanticize her and take her on a nice date? What we really want, we want you to pick up your new you-know-what around the house and pick up the slack around the house. And that's a turn on. Am I making myself clear? Like, I just really want to emphasize.
Oh, it's crystal.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so John, we talked about our connectivity challenge. We're going to continue to do it. Life's got to kind of resettle. My mom, by the way, sent me a letter. Okay, I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to read one line.
Yeah.
And we've talked about her being a catalyst and us staying together. We were separated earlier in our marriage. And I found 3 letters in my mom's apartment when we were moving her out. One was the letter from me to her telling her that we were separated. The other was the letter that she responded to me about our separation. And then the only other letter was that letter to you, John, that she wrote when we moved to New York. But she just said, Paula, romantic love will carry you just so far. To love our mate unconditionally takes a daily decision. And Mom, I love you.
Thank you, Carol.
If it weren't for you, Mom,
who knows?
I wouldn't have this awesome plaid flannel, and I probably wouldn't be married to John, and we wouldn't have these beautiful grandkids. So, Mother, your legacy lives on. I want to talk about some other ways that you can keep it spicy. I did some research, John.
Okay.
One article talked about how you can date your spouse and keep things really spicy. A couple of the ideas were plan something, send a text during the day, show up separately to the date to add some mystery. We should totally do that.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Like get ready separately and show up separately. But
Yeah.
then meet up, you and I, and I'm not meeting somebody else for the date, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Send a
Um,
text to your spouse, not
and
just send a text.
another one was make a playlist. This is great. I love that. You made me a
Yeah.
mixtape. I remember back in 1997, Michael Jackson, You Are Not Alone remains one of my favorite songs.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
on my mixtape, which I still have. I have it in our fire safe. So
Yeah.
if our house burns down, the mixtape will remain. It's in our fireproof safe.
But when we talk about who carries what load, when it comes to the music load in our family,
Well,
come
that's
on.
not stressful. That is not
Why
stressful.
is that not
Brings you joy.
stressful? Like when somebody needs a good playlist, like I'm the guy. Like I'm always bringing the new music to you. So I need you
I'm
to pick
still
up the
stuck in
slack
the
on
I'm still
that.
stuck in the 2000s. Okay, so another way to keep it spicy. This is from the article. It said shave your legs.
Both partners, like you and me.
I'm assuming it's for the female.
Okay.
Okay, another one is make out in the car. When's the last time we made out in a car?
Like just pull over and make
I
out.
don't know, just make out in the car.
Okay. We got some
Okay.
side roads where
But
we
these
live.
were some ideas, creative ways to date your partner and keep it spicy.
All
Okay,
right,
the
Paula,
ones
can
that
we
I just
commit? Can we
yeah.
commit that we're going to try all 4 of those in the next 30 days?
There weren't 4, there were more than that. There plan something is 1, send a
There you
text
go.
during the day is 2, show up separately to the date to add some mystery, that's 3,
I thought that
make a
was all one.
make a playlist is 4, shave your legs is 5, make out in the car is 6.
Okay.
We
I
can
can't
commit
wait
to
to
a
hear
couple of those.
I can't wait to hear your
How about
playlist.
this? I'll shave my legs, okay? Which I already do, but I'm just gonna shave my
Yeah,
legs. And I think we should show up separately to a date.
I like it.
I like that too. That's
I like it.
kinda, like, hot, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, another idea that I saw out there, there's this couple, they go on annual marriage retreats.
Mhm.
Every year they're doing this, thus the annual. Within that retreat, they're celebrating the past year, they're planning the next year, and then they're aligning on their values. They bring a whiteboard, they stay in a cozy hotel, they bring sexy lingerie, love notes, bathing suits, planners, and a calendar. Nothing says sexy like
Yeah.
a bathing suit, lingerie, a planner, and a calendar.
And a
That's what I'm talking
whiteboard.
about. The whiteboard. That's
Yeah.
how you keep it hot.
Yeah.
But it's part business, part adventure, and part fun. And this is what I'm talking about. Helping to share the mental load and the domestic labor. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's hot. A
Yeah.
calendar and a planner is hot. And then so is the lingerie, you know, and
Yes.
the boxers and the bathing
Those
suit.
things are. And the shaving of your
But
legs.
you see like the juxtaposition of those things, like you're reflecting on the year on the whiteboard, you're planning the next year, you're aligning your values. So it's like part adventure, part business, and part fun.
But it gets back to you're connecting. You're just
Mhm.
connecting at all these different levels. That was our challenge. It was a connectivity challenge, and that's what we were trying to do. Connect in all different aspects of our lives and relationships.
Okay, so here's another way you can connect. It's weekly, it's monthly, and it's annually. So every week, go on a coffee date. Every month, go on a dinner date. Every year, go on vacation together. We could do a coffee date once a week. We
Yeah.
could show up separately to the coffee shop.
One thing we've started doing, we've been drinking tea together. That's been a nighttime kind of activity. Yeah, I made you some tea right there.
You made me cinnamon tea. That was so
Cinnamon
nice of you.
tea. But that has been one thing we've been doing. It's just something a little small, but we both have our tea and it kind of brings us together.
So
And we have been talking about planning our anniversary, which is be our 25th anniversary this fall, which is crazy. Yeah.
John, I'm going to be 50 this year and celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary to you.
50s never look so good, baby.
Oh, you're so sweet. But I have to say, like, speaking of the tea, you made the tea. You've been super supportive and helpful. I have struggled the last couple of weeks. I'm struggling. in grief.
Understandably.
Grief. It's not linear. It's something I'm going to get over. I still grieve the loss of my dad, who passed away 6 years ago. But that grief isn't like a wave overwhelming me. It's more celebratory of the life that he lived. But right now, it's super raw with my mom. But you've been such a supportive spouse, John. Thank you. Okay, so another idea. Couples say that the key to a happy, successful marriage is the 2-2-2 rule, the number 2,
Ooh.
okay? It involves going on a date night every 2 weeks, spending a weekend away every 2 months, and then taking a week-long vacation every 2 years. The idea behind it is that prioritizing and planning to spend time together strengthens your relationship. Okay, that's a lot to remember, the 222. I like the every week coffee date, every month dinner date, every year vacation together.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I know. The 222, too many numbers.
Yeah. It's catchy.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I'd love to hear from you that are listening or watching. What are some ways that you connect and that you prioritize your relationship? And tell us if there's something that we talked about. I'd love to know, like, what are you going to do? Maybe you're going to show up separately to the date. Maybe you're going to make a playlist. Maybe you're going to make out in your car. Do you see that happening with us, John?
Probably. I'll try.
I know you're going to try. I know you'll try. Okay, so this was awesome. I think that concludes our episode. You did a great job. Let's continue the connectivity challenge the best we can, considering our circumstances. But just thank you, John, for being a great partner. And I think I got the point across that the way to my heart and everything else that you desire is by helping to share the domestic load and mental load.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
The point has been taken.
Yeah. Okay. So it is Women's History Month next week on the show. Why we shouldn't have to choose between kids and a career. It's getting a little spicy in here. Speaking of keeping it spicy, not just with your partner, we're keeping it spicy as we continue to talk about it. I've got the co-founder of Chamber of Mothers on the show. Right? Anything else we need to add, John? Sign up for the newsletter, paulaferrisofficial.com. It's free every 2 weeks, though I haven't sent one out because of everything going on, but I will get one out soon. Lots of giveaways, authentic look at our life, sneak peek at what's coming up on the podcast. And then I also have, regarding Carrie and working moms, we have a free weekly newsletter called The Carry All, which is a really great resource for working mamas.
Yeah, I said it at the beginning. I didn't feel real spicy or connected at the start of this, but I feel a little more spicy at the end of our podcast and more connected. So this podcast was good therapy for us, I think.
I think it was a really great therapy. Can we go watch a show now? 1923 is back.
Oh.
That's another thing. Find something. It doesn't have to be something active, but find something that you can connect on, even a show.
I recommend we go make out in the car.
While we watch the show. While we're listening to our playlist.
Wow, multitasking. That's a little much.
I'll let you touch my legs because I'll have shaved them.
Love you, babe.
I love you too, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining this show, this episode, and we're going to continue to talk about it. See ya. I know you guys thought you were done with me, but not quite yet. I have one more thing to tell you about. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to subscribe to the show. I don't want you to miss a single beat or a single conversation. And remember, my DMs are always open. Tell me what you want to talk about.